Tim Card started logging in 1984, and he incorporated it in 1986, and it was just a passion he always had, and he liked being in the woods. He started out running one yarder, and we got another yarder after that. We tried to run 2 or 3, and we try to stick with that. We're very family oriented.
So we're in the Sayula River drainage on the west slope of the Coast Range, approximately 10 miles due west of Veneta. Just starting to get into the Coast Range. Right where we're at is kind of the start of the Tyee Core area. It's a high landslide hazard location and highly erodible, prone to a lot of landslides, and this unit was no exception.
The challenges of this unit is there's a lot of steep ground, there's a lot of rock.
They had to take a light tactic on minimizing any soil disturbance, and they also looked at running a tethered feller buncher down bar saw down some of the slopes out here, which really had to take a very soft touch to it to minimize any gouging, any sediment disturbance, which they accomplished that.
Also a large amount of fish streams, non-perennial streams, and just a lot of areas that will be affected by the new rules. We're going to have a large amount of the slope retention areas present on this landscape, and finding an operator that is able to adhere to these new rules and operate effectively and efficiently within these parameters that the state has given us is one of Roseburg's biggest priorities.
Stewardship foresters to landowners to operators, we're all trying to navigate how to best apply the rules to the real world on the slopes here.
Card logging is a great representation of one of those operators that recognizes the new rules, and they adapted very quickly to these new rules.
It's impressive to see the amount of work and pre-work that they put into the whole operation to make sure that they were meeting or exceeding the Forest Practices Act in every way that they could.
Card logging does a great job of using the newest technology to aid them in whether it's logging, layout, or anything along those lines. A drone was used to make most of the layout on this unit, and when hanging through the neighbors or around the neighbors or over the buffers, this does a really good job of protecting the trees that are not going to be harvested.
Can't see where the equipment even worked. It's really impressive the light touch that was taken to protect all the buffers. In January 2024, we had the ice storm that hit a big chunk of the Sayula River drainage.
It blew over probably 20% of the stand, and so you have root balls that are sprung, and they're just a tangled mess of trees. They're very difficult to get out.
There was a large amount of wood on the ground, and this leaves that wood subject to be beetle infestation, or if there's a fire, it's a lot harder to fight the fire.
Logs were laying on top of each other. They had a lot of root wads and everything else that were still attached, where that's something that hand fallers don't typically have to deal with. So they had to be really conscientious of their cutting methods. There's a lot of these slopes out here that they did mixed approaches with hand falling, and then also tethered cutting with a bar saw and a feller buncher. That kind of added to the complexity, added to the length of time they were working out here, which ultimately, kind of hurt the logger on the profit side.
The tether application allows them to pick up the down trees, cut it off as close as they can to the root, and give more merchantable volume than if it was traditionally hand cut. It is a lot safer as well to be using a tether-based cutting operation in a handfall unit, and card logging does a really good job of keeping boots off the ground and keeping their guys safer.
We tried a lot more to find the right spots to run our yarder and get enough lift to where we could get full suspension on a lot of our turns. And the stuff we tether cut, we weren't making multiple trips. I'd make one path, we'd go down, and I'd try to utilize as much area as I possibly could, reach on each side. I'd try to reach everything I could get, because we don't want that. We don't want the soil disturbance. I don't want a bunch of mud runoff in the creeks. Instead of doing a smaller road change to where your lines are running down the hill, we'd make it wider, and the guys would pull off to each side of the skyline, and they'd try to bring turns into one central location. So instead of having multiple roads going down the hill, a whole lot more runoff ability into the draws and the creeks and stuff, we'd try to do a lot wider road change, and the guys were doing a little bit more pulling. So it was a lot of work for the guys, and the crew had a lot of work. They did a really phenomenal job.
They're operating on a 70 to 90% slope with a tether. and it's hard to tell that they were there. And it's one of the best tether operators I've seen in the state.
Throughout the duration of their operation, they were hit with isolated thunder and rainstorms, which created issues with hauling and everything else. And the spur that they're currently working on, it's a steep grade. Log trucks were having issues, getting traction, but the operator did their due diligence and shut down early. And as soon as we called fire season, it wasn't much longer till we went into a high fire danger, which essentially when we roll to a 3, loggers have to shut down at 1 p.m. Rather than being able to work all day, which, that takes a bulk of the hours out of the day, which really impacted the production, and they had to be efficient during every hour that they worked out here.
We had a lot of low humidity days. We had to really watch our humidities up here. Sometimes we'd get shut down at 10 o'clock. It was difficult with, an early shutdown, not being able to work a full day. We try to do everything as quick as we can, but our biggest thing is the safety aspect of it.
On both of the streams that were within this unit, we had to fully suspend over that, and that means taking the trees up and over the buffer without disrupting any sediment along those buffers and also not disturbing any of the trees. And card logging did a really great job of that, while also adhering to not being able to use the tail hold on the neighboring property, which was a significant challenge. I spoke with this neighbor about a week ago, and they were very satisfied with the outcome.
They've been impressive on every operation that they've done out here to forest practice standards.
When I come out here and look at what CARD has done, it amazes me.
This unit it'll successfully grow great trees again.